Stocks ended today's session mixed and little changed, with traders trying to make sense of that weak December jobs report and what it might mean for the economic recovery and the Federal Reserve's plans to start pulling back on its bond-buying stimulus regimen. But the day wasn't all bad. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index and the Dow Transports both ended the session at all-time highs. Today, the blue-chip Dow stocks fell just 7 points, ending slightly lower for the week. The Nasdaq was higher by 18. The S&P 500 added 4.
Our market guest tonight is telling her clients there's a silver lining to today's dreary jobs report. She's Rebecca Patterson, Chief Investment Officer at Bessemer Trust. Okay, Rebecca, make your case why this sobering news is good for investors and the markets.
Well, of course, we all would like to see a lot more job growth for every American, but purely from an investment point of view, I think there's at least two reasons this isn't a terrible day. I think on one hand, the bumpy start we've seen for stock markets this year is just consolidation. We had a very, very strong 2013 for equities, about 3 times the annual historical average gain. So some consolidation is actually quite healthy in a bull market. And I think secondly, the fact that we got this soft report today is going to reinforce a view within the markets that the Federal Reserve is going to move slowly to take away the punch bowl, and global central bank liquidity, including the Fed, is going to be a help for cyclical assets like stocks.
They have said at the Fed that the progression of the tapering of it is going to be data dependent. Here is some data. Do you think it's going to change whether they continue to pull back at $10 billion a month?
I don't think this one data point would be enough to change the Fed's mind at this point. As I think you had earlier in your program this evening, we've had a number of other data releases just in the last few weeks, ranging from business sentiment to weekly jobless claims to consumer data showing that the economy in the U.S., while not robust, is gaining momentum. So I think the Fed will look through this number. Given the weather distortion, I think we'd probably have to see more before the Fed changes. But you're right. They are focusing very much to make sure the economy has momentum.
And how about for you, Rebecca, in terms of your investment strategy? To what extent does this one data point make a change in what your plans are for 2014?
You know, when we see volatility, today the market didn't do that much, but when we see a data point that disappoints and leads the market lower, if it hasn't changed our bigger picture view, frankly, it's an opportunity to buy. Today we didn't get much pullback, so not a big opportunity. In general, we're sticking very much with our core view. We're overweight equities in our portfolios. We've built that overweight over the last year or so, staying very underweight fixed income. We think yields are going to continue rising this year, although less quickly than last year, underweight commodities. And we think the U.S. stock market will be one of the leaders again this year as it was last year.
Rebecca, very quickly, do we have any good idea in the labor force participation numbers, which are down, how many of those people who have stopped looking for jobs have stopped because they are discouraged, and how many have stopped because, well, they're retiring?
Yeah, I haven't seen any good breakdowns recently, what the mix is exactly. I think that's a great question. But I do think it is becoming a greater political agenda. And I think we could hear more on the State of the Union address from President Obama later, I believe at the end of this month, on the divide. You know, the people with the jobs, the people benefiting from this great stock market, and the people who haven't been able to find work after the Great Recession. And it's creating a bigger social and political issue for America. I don't know what the breakdown is, Tyler, on your question. It's a good one. I'll find out this weekend. But I do think it's a bigger issue for the country that has social and political ramifications. And if it continues, it could become an economic issue as well.
All right, Rebecca, great talking with you. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Rebecca Patterson, Chief Investment Officer at Bessemer Trust.